we're trying to dissect this Maple Leaf season thus far. How would you break it down thus far?
Oh, that's all you're trying to do? It's nice and easy, nice and light. Where would you like to begin?
I got one for you, Sid. I'm just curious because, again, you're someone I depend on to spice up my life with your takes. I don't think you're ever afraid.
I didn't know what you depended me on for. I was waiting for that to come flying through.
Of course.
Yes.
So if you're looking at the core four, I know Brad Treliving hates that term, but are you reaching the point where going into the offseason, if this group doesn't get it done, are you looking at, for example, a Mitch Marner? Are you willing to dissect or split up that group? Is the time coming, or do you still think this group can get it done in the long term?
Well, I don't think they can get it done in the long term because they don't have enough people around them. That's the math. If Shanahan's there, nothing's changing. Absolutely nothing. Like I'm not having the same conversation over and over about what I think an offseason will look like because we know how an offseason will look like. Shanahan's going to come out, maybe, or just for a living. And we believe in the group and this and that and this and that and this and like honestly, it is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in Toronto. And we're in Toronto. I expect no changes. You think Marner's taking a pay cut? Get out of here. No. You think he's taking a pay cut? Get out of here. Nothing's going to change with Shanahan running it. Absolutely nothing. Now, the X factor is Keith Pelley becoming the CEO of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. That's one of the most significant pieces of news that organization has seen since Dubas left. And we'll see what he thinks. Keith is a visionary, and he knows Rogers and Bell very well. And we'll see what happens. But anyway, that's the changes aspect. I almost fell off my chair when you asked me what changes would happen in the Leafs offseason. Well, so that's that. This year, it's funny. I literally just picked up my phone before coming on with you guys. And lo and behold, the Leafs are in a wild card spot. How do we think that Islander season is now going to go, out of curiosity? What do you guys think of that Islander team under Patrick Roy? You think they're going to be a wallflower? Or you think they're going to actually try and do something here? I know Brendan Gallagher's taking cheap shots left and right at their guys last night, but that aside, because I expect them to make a run. What do you guys think?
Well, yeah, the new coach bump, right? The new coach bump's what you're expecting, no?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And, they have some decent offensive players on that team and a big blue line that's underperformed. And like, I'm looking at the teams behind them. Jersey's borderline decimated with injuries right now.
Yeah.
The Islanders are interesting to me. So maybe it's a good thing. Like maybe the Leafs not just coasting through January, February, and March, statistically speaking, in the standings is going to be a good thing for them. We'll find out. I think either way they're trending, you do not add to this group at the deadline and give up anything substantial. You're asking for trouble. This is not a group that has shown you any level of trust. If you're Patrick Allvin in Vancouver, it's a different conversation. I think you owe it to the room and you owe it to Rick to do a little something here. And on top of it, they're smart enough to make the little tweak that you don't think much of at the time. But this team has given you no indication. The way the Leafs start games is unprofessional. It is completely unprofessional, the approach this team has. And I don't know if it's about they really feel like they've tuned Sheldon out. And I'm not saying Sheldon is 100% the issue because I don't think he got a good roster as we're seeing. But I think there's something to be said here about if the players aren't responding anymore, what do you do? The one thing you can't do is reward that garbage with trading more assets. Can't happen. I don't care what the situation is in Calgary with the blue line. I don't care what the situation is elsewhere around the league. It can't happen. The Panthers as an 8 seed making a run like that, it's a nice story. It's not realistic. It isn't. So I expect a fight from here on into the end of the year. Quite frankly, they deserve to be in that spot. And it might do them some good. Who knows? But adding is not something I do. And Sheldon, while he's here, better get his licks in. and I don't mind him doing that. But I just don't know after the All-Star break if this kind of thing keeps up. Like to me, the magic mark is you're not in a playoff spot anymore.
And then it's like all hell,
100%.
Yeah.
It starts with Sheldon, because that's the easiest thing any hockey team can do. Ask the team at Rexall Place how that can work.
True.
But after that, if it still continues under a Bruce Boudreau or whoever, because it'll be an experienced person. They're not going to play that. They're not going to do that garbage anymore with an experienced guy. It'll be an experienced coach. Who knows what the next step is? I just don't think this team has earned the benefit of the doubt of a aggressive trade deadline and jumping through hoops to get Jake McCabe in the cap, under the cap. Like that's not. I don't see that.
Yeah, because they're not one piece away. Like we've talked about this a lot in the show the last couple weeks, and I've seen your takes on social media. I couldn't agree more. Like I always have to be smart in saying, like, I think Sheldon Keefe's a good coach. I just think they've extracted as much as they can out of Sheldon Keefe. I don't know if you feel the same way. I think it's the easiest scapegoat, and you can't fire an entire team, unfortunately.
No, you can't. But and listen, if hypothetically speaking, Sheldon becomes a free agent, if you haven't had any playoff success for years, guess what? He's probably your guy. That's a pretty good regular season record with teams that weren't deep. Like I'll give Sheldon credit for that. No one can take that away. The numbers don't lie. And there are plenty of teams in this league. I mean, if the Red Wings don't kind of take off here in the next year and a half, 2 years, Yzerman's going to get itchy. And I know his boy, Newsy Lalonde behind the bench. he's tight with him, but come on. Like if you feel there's going to be a lot of teams where if they don't turn some corners, like Sheldon's perfect. Perfect. And he's not going to cost you $10 million a year or $5 million a year. No. So he'll be fine. I know this is his dream job, but he'll be fine. But in terms of what you said, have you squeezed all the blood out of the stone you can? Boy, are we getting to that point. Boy, are we getting to the point where, to me, it's the not ready to start thing that is really, really, really concerning. Really concerning. And I said this to someone the other day. Like I was interested for the ratings in this country Saturday night, because there was I think it was Niners Packers Saturday night, up right against Canucks Leafs here on Hockey Day in Canada. And I'm like, well, that Packers game, look out. Like hockey night's hockey night, but that Packers-Niners game. Packers-Niners did, I think, like 650,000 viewers in this country. And Canucks Leafs did 1.8 million. Like that was still a game. That's still a game people were juiced up for. Leafs had no interest in playing to start that game. Absolutely zero interest. And that to me tells me Sheldon might be an issue, and not an issue of his own making. I'm just saying an issue of it's the pregame speech is getting a little dry. The pregame speech is getting dry. The film session's getting dry, and you're not firing on all cylinders when you're out there. And when you see the stuff the other night that led to the 2-on-none on Samsonov, I don't think people broke down that play enough. Nylander is having a snack in the corner. I encourage everyone watching or listening to this, go back to that moment. Don't be distracted by the shiny lights behind the net that leads to the pass. Watch what was going on there. I have no idea what that was. And that to me is the sign of a team that knows there are no consequences. Where do we go with this? I don't know. But
yeah, and I wanted to ask you, Sid, about that.
It's not a good sign.
If that lack of consequences is baked into the entire team culture, let's say we play out a scenario. So in a few weeks, they hit the skids again, and you do replace Sheldon Keefe, you bring in Guy Boucher, whatever happens, they still miss the playoffs or they bomb out in round one. I want to go back to what you mentioned about Keith Pelley, because I think the implication there, what you're hinting at, is that Brendan Shanahan is running out of runway himself. So do you think there could be a scenario where we see that happen and the biggest head of all finally does roll too?
I mean, would it surprise anyone in this conversation? No. If with a brand new MLSE executive coming in, and after 9 some odd years of nothing in April. Like, it seems like MLSE have been fair to Brendan. You know, like it seemed like, what do you need? Money here, money there, money there. No problem. What do you need? More time? More time, more time, more time? No problem. Now what? Now what do you need? Do you need new music after goals? Like, what do you need? Like, how can we help you? How can we further this along for you? No one. The MLSE let Brendan bring in a guy with zero, and I mean zero, National Hockey League experience in Cal Dubas. He barely had it. He didn't have any assistant reps. You saw Lou Lamoriello 3 times in a hallway. That was his initiation. You think Lou took him under his wing? Give me a break. Like, no problem. MLSE at every turn, no problem. No problem. Maybe Keith is coming in to be the heavy. Maybe he is. Because the Raptors, like, it's going to get ugly here for a while, but it seems like there's a road they're traveling. And they've made adult decisions. There's a thing coming up with the Leafs where someone's going to have to sit down Mitch Marner and his agent and say, this ain't about you right now. And if you don't like it, you can leave. No one's had the balls in that organization to say that to any of them. None of those negotiations have gone to the breaking point past Nylander's first deal. And even then they blinked. If that email didn't go through at the time, they would have left. It would have been a disaster, right? But the organization has a history of that. Will Keith change that a little bit? I think there's a lot of opportunity in this market for some smart adult decisions. This fan base had no problem when you tanked. Zero. I've never seen anything like it. It's the most surprising Toronto sports fan reaction thing I've ever seen. They were like, I get it. I've seen enough of Phaneuf and Kessel. I get it. Strip it. And they were fine with it. Do you think there's an uproar if Mitch Marner leaves this organization? Let's put it all out there now, because I don't understand the notion of you have to once again bend over backwards for a player that has given you nothing tangible when it matters most. We have to really have this conversation. Now, if you're scared that there's nothing in the farm system, that's a different discussion. And I'll have that discussion, because guess what? There's nothing there.
That's right.
There's nothing there. So from that aspect, like, I'm really looking back at Nylander differently. I was furious when that deal got signed. I thought that was insane. And there's a large 80% of me still thinks that's insane because of, like, watch him play now.
He's packing it in, man.
I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure. But the other side of me is like, who's coming up? Who's the pick coming up that everyone's jacked about? Who's the Leaf prospect that went to the World Juniors and tore it up? You don't see it. So from that aspect, I get it. But now it's just this cycle. And it's not going to take much work, but someone has to go in there and let the room know it's not about you. No one's done that. Not Kyle, not Brendan, not Sheldon. Oh, Sheldon, you sack guys for a couple power plays. I'm sure they've learned their lesson. I just think there's two concurrent. Sorry, here's my main point. Boy, have I gone a long way for this. The rest of this season to me is two stories. It is obviously the race to get into the playoffs, and they're going to be in that for the whole shebang, deservedly so. But how does Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment react as this happens? And the feeling in the city, like, guys, if they miss the playoffs, there's going to be pitchforks outside Air Canada Center.
Oh, yeah.
In a serious
with
way.
Sushi and caviar. Don't forget that. The sushi from
yeah. Yeah. Somebody inside MLSE better not say let them eat cake, because there's going to be an issue. So I think everyone knows the stakes. I've defended Brad Treliving left and right. There's a couple moves here I can't.
Yeah.
Reeves at the time you couldn't defend. I can't believe anyone with half a brain defended Reeves at the time. But I still think he's just kind of there. Like, I think he's there. I love guys on their second job. I think they're smarter. I'd like to see Brad Treliving out from underneath the Shanahan umbrella and see what really can happen here. But I think there's more than a couple of angles here where if you're covering the Leafs day in and day out like you guys are, I think you're in a fun market because this is interesting stuff. Like this is the door, like history will be hinged on the next 3 months with this team because Pelley's not coming in to just sit there and get a suite to a Springsteen concert. Like I've seen Keith in action. He's a killer. He's an absolute killer of an executive. And there's a reason they've done this now. I thought it was a very interesting hire, and Leaf fans really should have made more of it. There's a reason this is happening now. Like, this is a guy, I've heard this guy one day talked about as like an NHL commissioner. No joke. So watch that timeline because he goes full-time in April. We'll see how it goes. So aside from that, there's nothing going on with the Leafs.
Yeah, nothing at all. No, it's funny you bring that up because daily basis, like there's no shortage of topics to bring up. And to me, it leads me back to one word, man, like accountability. There is zero accountability. I always bring this up. They can lose. The next day, we got fucking tea time set up for Mitch Marner. Like that, let's not go back to that story. Like it just seems like nobody's pet. Like I don't even know how to phrase it, but it's like there's no anger. Like I watched Nathan McKinnon play hockey. And I'm like, this guy's an absolute dog. I get it's his nickname, but he hates to lose. There's no hate to lose with these guys, unfortunately.
I mean, I hear you.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. That's still a tough one for me. Cause like, 10 years ago, I would say yes. Like I needed to see you break a stick for me to believe you cared.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm there as much, but there's a lot of people that agree with you. Tons of people that agree with you. And the Marner thing, like this is why the Marner extension coming up or contract negotiation. This is a synopsis of everything because he's a Toronto guy. He wants to be here. No one liked that contract when he first signed it. Has he put up good regular season numbers? Yeah. Is he this year? Not really by his standard. But I'm just wondering what he does in the market if they start to turn. Like there was I read some of the off day quotes yesterday out of Etobicoke, and Marner was talking about Samsonov's performance the other night, and Marner brought it back to him, saying, "You know what? I know what it's like to be doubted, and I know what it's like to be this, and I know what it's like to be that." I can't believe more wasn't made of it. Like Marner literally talking about Samsonov persevering made it about him. And I worry about that. Like, Marner caved in when he started sniping at the media towards the end of that Florida series. Like, I think I've seen what that's about. I've seen that story. I kind of know what that is. That's a guy who doesn't like some of the shit that comes with the market. And those guys really haven't seen it. When the Leafs have failed, who's gotten it the worst? It's been Dubas, it's been Shanahan, it's been Keefe. Like, they haven't seen it the way we used to see it in this market. So the more I listen to Mitch, I don't know, man. I don't know. Is that a guy playing 2.5 months of hard hockey for a cup in the city? I don't know. That I urge all of you, go back and read or listen to what Mitch said about Samsung. Like, it was very complimentary, obviously, about Ilya in that story, which is a great story. I don't want to act like there's not great stories with the Leafs. What happened in there with Ilya was amazing, and the way that crowd reacted was amazing. But Mitch still kind of made it about him. Honestly, pull the clip, find the quotes. The least talked about story with the team is becoming, can Mitch take it? And I don't know if he can. I'm not saying Nylander could take. None of them have proven they can win more than 5 playoff games together. I'm not saying any of them are cup champions.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have a tone, like a self-dialogue with yourself if you're going to just make that kind of money in the city, because there will be pressure. Obviously, there's pressure in any city, but especially here for a guy who didn't take a cent less on the discount, and I'm fine with it. But pressure comes with that. Mitch is cracking a little bit to me when it comes to that. And if you're looking at the future and you're looking at what's next, I don't know. Am I wrong? What do you guys think?
I don't think so. Yeah. And I think you've seen it with Mitch. It's sort of a straw man thing that I don't know if it's a self-motivation tactic, but especially in the play. I remember last year him saying, we just got to not read what you guys write. But by saying that, you're implying that what we wrote. Mitch.
It was absolutely childish. First off, it wasn't. I mean, well, who was writing anything? What is this, the 60s? Who's listening and watching stuff online? Like, give me a break. Like, what is this? Like, Mitch isn't picking up the Star and going, what's going on here? Like, let's be honest. So I feel like I think it's a storyline worth watching. How much he throws back at the media when things aren't going well. And we'll see how it goes. But I mean, listen, we've also seen him like kick ass.
Yeah.
What was that point streak he was on? Was it last year? I'm losing track.
It was a lot.
He had one of the greatest Januaries I've ever seen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, he has that in him.
Yeah.
But he's getting caught up in the BS a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Austin kind of doesn't do that. Nylander doesn't have a pulse, for better or worse. He doesn't get caught up in that. Tavares, I've seen the same scrum 1,000 times right now. Like, it doesn't really change with Tavares. But Mitch wears it on his sleeve, man. And I just think, yeah, God, it's if the market's already getting you like that, it's not a good sign. It's not.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Roseau. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.